In 2024, Ducati won the Moto America Superbike Championship with Josh Heron. Honda won the Supercross Championship with Jet Lawrence. BMW won the World Superbike Championship with Toprak Razgatlioglu with Mr. Toprak, and nobody would let it race, but KTM won Most Ridiculous Engine of the Year with the 1390 Super Duke.
That's 4 different manufacturers and 4 different championships. And yet, none of those bikes use the same type of frame. In fact, that's only 4 out of the 6 types of frames.
So it clearly doesn't matter what type of frame you have, right? Obviously, they're all fast enough to win.
But that is not true in the slightest. So today, we're going to go over the 6 common types of motorcycle frames, where you'll find them, what makes each one good and bad, and how to spot the difference. A frame is the core structure of a bike. It ties all of the different components together, like the steering, the suspension, the engine, and the seats, to form a bike. And over decades of innovation, smart engineers have found quite a few different ways to achieve this.
The simplest approach is called the single-cradle frame. It has a single tube that runs underneath the engine to cradle it.
Hence its name. And it doesn't get more simple than this. And keeping with its simple theme, they're usually made out of heavy steel and are typically found on old bikes and cheap and basic bikes. These days, they're perfect for extremely cheap and simple motorcycles because they're very cheap to produce. But by design, they've got a lot of flex and aren't strong enough to cope with the weight or forces of a modern engine producing hundreds of horsepower.
The natural evolution of this is the double-cradle frame. This takes the same concept as the single-cradle, but improves it by adding a second parallel tube running underneath the engine to cradle it.
This additional tube obviously increases the weight quite substantially, but it's a worthwhile trade-off because suddenly it gets a lot stiffer, allowing it to cope with higher cornering and braking forces without flexing as much. These are most commonly found on off-road focused bikes.
Even bikes like the Honda Africa Twin, Triumph Scrambler, and Royal Enfields tend to use them. Motocross and enduro bikes also make use of double-cradle frames.
That's because they're relatively cheap to produce for the performance that they offer. They also offer really good engine protection with those tubes running underneath the engine. So if you were to strike a rock, for example, you'd be less likely to punch a hole in the engine.
Material-wise, Japanese manufacturers prefer aluminium because it's light, strong, and resists corrosion.
The Austrians over at the KTM factory, on the other hand, prefer to work with steel, supposedly because they have more knowledge working with steel than aluminium. They also feel that it offers the perfect balance between strength and flex to give optimum feedback. Steel also absorbs shocks very well. It's easier to repair, but that does mean that it can rust if left unprotected.
Another simple approach is the backbone frame. This usually consists of a steel tube that runs from the headstock of the frame over the top of the engine all the way to the swing-arm pivot. The engine then hangs off of this backbone that acts and looks like a sort of spine, with no bracing underneath the engine at all.
A human spine is also called the backbone, and it allows us to twist and bend. And the same applies to the backbone frame. It's not very stiff at all, making it more suited to cheap, low horsepower bikes like the Honda Hornet 250, for example. They're not very common, but they are relatively easy and cheap to produce because they require less material than cradle frames.
But for big boy horsepower, you'll need something like a twin-spar or perimeter frame. These consist of 2 hollow beams, or spars, that run from the headstock of the frame, around the perimeter of the engine, then to the subframe, and all the way to the swing-arm pivot, also with no support underneath the engine.
Some twin-spar frames also use the engine as a stressed member to help strengthen the design, making them super strong to survive 200 plus horsepower on a superbike and to resist the braking and cornering forces associated with that level of performance.
Hence why they're most common on sporty bikes, found on everything from an Aprilia RSV4, a Kawasaki ZX6R, and even naked bikes like Yamaha MT-09s, and sports tourers like the Suzuki GSX S1000 GX. The way they hug the perimeter of the engine also makes accessing the top of the engine easier than with the previous frames.
Typically, manufacturers make twin-spar frames out of aluminium because it's light. But a few years ago, BMW took it to the next level with their HP4 Race and made a twin-spar frame out of carbon fiber. This is incredibly difficult to manufacture, which makes it far too expensive to mass produce at the moment. And a twin-spar frame isn't the only way this concept can be achieved.
Enter the Trellis frame. This takes the same approach and shape as the twin-spar frame, but this time, instead of using two hollow beams, a web of thin steel tubes is used with an abundance of triangulation to get the desired rigidity.
These can be pretty light, but difficult to mass produce. Ducati originally made Trellis frames famous, but these days it's more synonymous with KTM.
They use it on their street bikes, from their little 125 Duke all the way up to the beastly 1390 Super Duke, and of course their RC lineup.
In fact, KTM even used a steel trellis frame on their MotoGP bike at first, but eventually had to ditch it for a twin-spar frame. But you have to admit, they look spectacular, especially in orange.
And finally, there's the monocoque frame. Monocoque chassis are far more common in the car world, and monocoque is French for single shell.
The idea is that the load is distributed through the external skin of the frame, kind of like how an eggshell gets its strength.
Ducati called their frame for the 1199 and 1299 Panigale a monocoque, where the airbox or throttle bodies run through the frame.
But I think that is stretching the term a bit.
A better example is Kawasaki's monocoque frame on the ZX12R from the year 2000. The airbox is supposedly inside the frame, with routing for throttle bodies, wiring, and a battery box. This is an interesting use of space, and encompasses the monocoque approach, but for a bike.
Theoretically, a monocoque can be more rigid, lighter, and more compact, which makes it more aerodynamic as well. The concept is brilliant, but it hasn't really caught on, because they require a high level of robotization to produce, which is obviously very expensive. And they look like a nightmare to work on.
These days, Ducati make use of a front frame on their V4 Panigale, which looks a lot like the front part of a twin-spar frame, and attaches directly to the engine.
They then use the engine as a part of the frame. This allows them to use less material to produce the frame itself, making it lighter.
Then there's a separate piece for the rear shock that attaches to the back of the engine.
But anyway, let me know which frame your bike has and which approach you think is going to dominate in the future. And I'll see you on the next ride.